know how. Hang on. I'm going to turn off the sound clips. Just because I don't want spam during this video segment. So, sorry about that. But I will put them back on after. No, sorry about that. They're going off for a bit. I don't want spam over this video. This is like an important video that's going to go over a lot of complicated shit. And it's going to be very technical. So we're not having spam for this. Sorry about that. Alright, we are going to be watching and answering the question from my title. Are the battles in Final Fantasy VII actually random? And we're going to be doing this via this video and part of this video series of FF7 any percent no slots comprehensive speedrun tutorial by Dash Retro, who is one of the top speedrunners in the world of Final Fantasy VII. And this guide, we're going to be watching videos 2, 3, and 4. And I'm up to like number 16, and this will break open any... just breaks open the whole game. If you've ever played FF7 casually, and even, you know, you're quite experienced with FF7, this will show you things you've never even seen to do with the values and the hard coding of the game. So please do look forward to this. This is some very interesting stuff. It's very in-depth. You might get lost. I will pause a little bit here and there to answer some questions if I can hopefully explain any better than he can, but I probably can't. So, you know, this is why we're watching his video, and he's going to lay all the expertise on us. But otherwise, we will have time for like questions at the end. Okay.
It is now time to get into the game, and we are going to get hot
and
heavy.
The one thing I will interrupt here. The only part that we've missed is to do with the hardware and your slim PS2 and disk speed. I don't think that's relevant for this part. I don't think we're probably not going to watch every part of this series on stream. However, I can make it a series, and we can, and if that's the case, we'll go back and add on the hardware after. But this is like the first actual part of the tutorial after the hardware part, which I don't think is relevant currently right now to answer the question about battles.
With Final Fantasy VII.
I'll try not to interrupt this too much either.
Already time to talk about steps. So let me clarify some things. This is a comprehensive tutorial. We are going we're going to talk about things that are useful for beginners and for advanced, right? Intermediate. This is going to cover everything. So some of this information you don't need to apply in your first runs. In fact,
I might need to full screen the video maybe, so it's a bit more visible, but...
and it's turning you off to the game, to the idea of speedrunning. Don't worry, you don't have to do it. But I do think that you should still pay attention to this part of the lesson so that you understand how movement works in this game and why step count is a thing. Because if you start running the game but you're not doing steps, the information that you will gain from this lesson is going to inform you about why things are happening, and you're going to start doing steps naturally because it's just how you play the game. So, let's talk about it. Check out this this thing called fraction that we...
Can you guys see that okay? Or should we try and somehow make it work like this? I feel like that would be better. I'm kind of in the way, but not actually. You can see everything relevant. The only thing I'm covering is his like task manager stuff or whatever, his taskbar. So that I think this might be clearer for the sake. Like I'm only covering that bit, and you guys will come up just over Dash, sort of just over his head. So that will be fine. I think this might be clearer for the sake of you guys to see everything of what he's going to be showing. Everything on screen will be explained. All of these fields, all of these, these values here will all be explained. So don't worry.
Call your fractions. This address in memory, what this address does is it is keeping track every frame that you are moving. So right now it's not doing anything. But if you move for a frame, it counts up. Every frame that you move, it counts up by 32. So 0, 32, 64, 96, right? And every time that it would hit 256, right, 224 plus 32 is 256, it rolls over to 0. So this is just flying by when you're moving. Whether you're running or whether you're walking, this just counts up by 32 every single frame that you're moving, and it rolls over at 256. So, you might be asking, what is this doing? Well, because we're on a hostile screen, it's not doing anything. Sorry, because we're on a non-hostile screen, it's not doing anything. This screen you can't get battles on. And so when fractions roll over, it doesn't do anything. So, if we run into the next screen, however, on this screen, you can get into battles. And so you'll notice that on this screen, check this out. Look at all the surrounding numbers here. On this screen, when fractions roll over to 0, our step ID incremented to 2, and our danger incremented to 16. And so every time on this screen that fractions roll over to 0, step ID increments and danger increments. And so what this is achieving for the game is the way that this game gives you random battles is not random at all. How it works is
Spoiler alert, the question has just been answered already, but it's true. The battles are not random, and if you can follow along with this, he's going to explain and show you to the exact detail, even down to what encounter he's going to know what encounter he's going to get exactly on which pixel he's going to get it. And he's going to explain how he knows that.
There is a encounter table that we call it, which is just a hard-coded, always the same list of numbers that the game, one by one, checks your danger against every time that your step ID increments. And if your danger is higher than that number it checks against, you get into a battle. Let me explain this a couple different ways, because this is a very, very important concept. And it sounds really complicated, but it's actually extremely simple once you get it. If you turn on your console, hit New Game, and you always move the same way every time, you will always get into the same battles in the same places. Let me give you a quick example. We're going to move up here. We're going to move like this. This is just the optimal way to get through this part, right? We're going to name Cloud. We're going to name Barrett. And then we're going to go through this little sequence, all right? And so because of our movement and because of how the system works, the first battle that we're going to get into after we round this corner is going to be right here. I said it too late. It looked like I just reacted, but instead, no, we knew that battle was going to be right there. And it'll always be right there. And then we can run up here. And if you want, you can be looking at our fractions moving, but notice on this screen, our step ID stops incrementing as our fractions roll over. That's because this screen is not live.
This is part of the video.
Can you see mouse cursor? Our next battle is going to be about right here. And it's going to be with 2 laser robots.
There are little fast forwards and stuff. So 2 laser robots.
So as you can see, because of how it's coded, it's always the same. As long as you behave the same. And this is what I mean when I say that even if you don't apply step routing to your runs, you're going to start to notice the patterns. And if you understand this part of the lesson, then you're going to understand why that is. So, here's exactly what's happening. Is every time that the fractions roll over, if the screen that you are on is hostile, then the game will increment this value called your step ID, and it will give you danger. And the purpose of these 2 numbers is that your danger makes it so that you don't just get into a battle in one step. It makes it so that as you get higher danger, the longer you've gone without getting into a battle, the more likely you are to get into a battle. So that's how the game balances not getting into fights immediately after you've already had a fight, and not going too long without a fight either. You have this danger.
Thanks for letting me know.
So that's what danger is. It increments every time fractions roll over. And then the purpose of step ID is that remember that I described the encounter table.
I wasn't aware of that, my bad.
Hard-coded list of numbers
that should be. It's because I had it set. It wasn't ready for full screen. That's why. That should be okay. We're not missing much on the bottom, are we? We're missing his hands.
On that list, right?
Okay.
This is
Sorry, that's my bad.
Keeping track of where you are on the list, so it knows where to check next time the. So that's how the game balances. Not getting into fights immediately after you've already had a fight, and not going too long without a fight either. You have this.
Yeah, I had it set for not full screen where it cuts off a bit of the YouTube trash.
Every time fractions roll over. And then the purpose of step ID is that remember that I described the encounter table as a hard-coded list of numbers that the game checks one by one. Your step ID is essentially your bookmark or your spot on that list, right? This is the game keeping track of where you are on the list so it knows where to check next time the fractions roll over. So exactly the process is, I moved a frame, active window. I moved a frame, increase the fractions. I move a frame, increase the fractions, right? But now on this frame, when I move the entire process is increment fractions, they roll
back,
over
Kira.
to 0. So now, increment danger, increment step ID, use the step ID to look that far down on the encounter table to find our number that we're going to check danger against. And if danger is higher than that number, battle. And when you get into a battle...
It's a lot of information. I did say that, like I said at the start, this is going to be very complicated. Because it is supposed to be part of the speedrun tutorial. So, and this is like fully comprehensive to even show and even talk about this stuff is top 10 speedrunner stuff. Like top 10 speedrunner of this game, and he is. So this is like, and the world record uses all of these strats, and some of the things that the routes that he goes on and the manips that he uses are the world record manips. So that's why it is really in-depth, but the reason I'm showing it is because it is really in-depth. And to explain about step ID, the way fractions roll over to 256, the way danger increases, which determines whether you're going to get a battle. Then we're going to have things about, obviously, formation ID, as well as field ID that coincide with that, and there's still way more to go yet, so yeah.
Your danger resets back to 0.
Kind of, yeah.
I hope
it's sort of like that, but you'll see.
This is a program called Big Shoes that was coded by Ace Zephyr in Python, and you may use it. You can find it on the FF7 Discord, the speedrunning Discord, which you can find on speedrun.com/FF7, and it's under the Resources tab. You can find this thing called Big Shoes. It connects to emulators. This is not a tool that you would use in a run. This is for research purposes, but it connects, and so this is an excellent visual.
The game makes you do maths, yeah.
Of what is happening as you run.
This is good to show you if you're not understanding, because this graph just shows you.
Run, your steps go up to the right, or your steps go up, and your danger increases at the rate of these blue the blue diagonal line. And then these blue bars coming down are the encounter checks. So right now, because we just...
Let's go back so we can pause that.
Down are the encounter checks.
So encounter thresholds will be a more apt term since the checks are happening on every step ID, but only some step IDs have thresholds low enough to see on this graph.
So right now, because we just got into a fight, our danger is 0, and we're on step 156, you know? So as we run, our steps are going to go up, and every time our steps roll over, the game is going to check for a encounter. However, these blue bars are representing the number of that encounter check. Like this one right here, for example, is...
Oh, my bot's not on, sorry.
So
I forgot. I turned it off.
Above that 1800...
That won't work.
You're going to hit this line as you go to the right and get into an encounter. But
yeah, so the vertical lines are encounters.
The point is only going to be like 400, 500. We go underneath it, right? But then this encounter check right here, and then there's a bunch of really high ones. And then this one right here, though, checks like 500. But at that point, our danger is going to be about 1,000, and we are going to hit that encounter, and we're going to get into it. So as we run, you can see up here, you can see our step ID incrementing and our danger incrementing. And then on Big Shoes, you can see we're going to the right as our step ID increases. We're going up as our danger increases along that blue predictive line. And so why does Big Shoes know the future of encounter checks? Because it's hard-coded into the game. It's always the same. And so what this is going to result in, I'll try to time it out here. So just like I said a minute ago, our danger is just over. Oh, our danger is actually higher than 1,000 because we switched to a room that has higher danger incrementation. That's a thing we'll get into in a minute. But just as suspected, right here we get into a fight, and then our danger, once the fight is over, our danger decreases back to 0. So right there, our danger reset to 0. Fractions are always 0 after a random battle because that's when the rollover, that's when the battle check occurs. And then on the graph, you can see we dropped back down to 0 to start over now. Okay, so that is how encounters work. So now we're going to talk about a quirk to
14 steps before sprinting.
So let's...
Kind of, yeah. You're on the right lines. There are areas, basically. So in that graph, the blue line is your danger. The green line is your walking. That's walking steps. He's going to get to it all anyway. But there were 2 encounters. 14 steps for encounter. First one seen. Just watch the video. Just watch, and we'll do questions at the end.
An optimal whip around this corner.
Because if you're following correctly, everything will be answered.
Of the fact that the battles always occur, with the same logic. Let's say you know the frame that you're about to get into a battle. And
because the step thing will come up.
Step ID 70...
So like you are on the right lines, but he'll be able to explain it better.
It's 76, okay. So we know, based on everything I've said, that we are going to get into a battle on the next frame that I move. The next frame that I move. So, and so to show that, there it is. However, if you menu on the frame that you would get a battle, hang on, just like that, notice our fractions roll over to 0, our step ID is 76, but when I exit, no battle, and you just keep going. You can skip battles in this game.
Also, by the way, he plays PS1. He's playing this emulator on a SNES controller. I don't know why he does that, but he's obviously still got the control display here. But
no menu. Menu. How about that? However, before your mind explodes about the implications of this in a speedrun, notice our danger value right now. When you skip a battle, your danger does not reset. So there's the battle that we would normally get into, and when we get into the battle, Big Shoes, our danger hasn't actually reset to 0 yet, so that's why Big Shoes displays the way that it does right now. But then
he just dropped me out of the way for a sec.
Danger resets to 0, and now we're not going to get into a battle until this one over here. If we do the skip and then exit, now you'll see our danger did not reset, so it looks like we're actually going to get into a battle right here instead, which would be bad because that's an earlier battle. And so this kind of makes it look like it doesn't actually do anything helpful for you. But in this particular case, we run up here, and then I think our danger incrementation is actually going to change. Like one of the upcoming rooms, right? One of the upcoming rooms has lower danger incrementation, and so that's actually going to get us underneath this encounter.
Yeah, some rooms give more danger than others.
Not gonna build up as much danger as is currently being predicted by Big Shoes. But yeah, as we get into this,
See, I've known some of these things for years, but not all of these.
Is that
Like, I knew about hostility and danger and step count and
more slowly
field IDs.
Than the other rooms do, and so we end up not getting into this battle until this line right here. And so what that means is that whether or not we get into this battle right here, our next battle is going to be this one. Which means that this battle is skippable. Because there are a lot of other times where if you were to skip a battle, it just makes you get into another battle right away.
Yeah, because your danger's still high.
Skipping the battle. And there are actually very, very few battles that you can skip without just adding another battle to counteract it, you know?
In Midgar, there's this one, which is the first battle skip. The ones that I know of in Midgar for part of the speedrun are here, and in the train graveyard, on the far right of the screen as you're going, I think, on top of or through the train. I can't remember which part it is, but it's along there. It might be on the roof of it, and you can do a battle skip there with the menu, because I see Caleb do that when he's playing. They're the two that I definitely know. There's probably a couple of others as well, but not that many. Like you said, it's not that useful because avoiding a battle will inevitably get you another one because your danger has not reset, and therefore you're going to catch one of the higher danger encounters, and even though you're trying to limbo under them. Does that make sense? He's going to explain this, but
this is actually one of the pretty rare situations in which it actually works. So it's funny that it's the first random battle. Oh, let me just tell you, the way that you actually specifically execute a battle skip is you need to press the movement on the D-pad on one frame, and then press triangle for the menu on the next frame. And fields are 30 frames per second. So if you press them both at the exact same time, you'll just get a menu. And you won't get movement.
To explain something he won't, for anyone that isn't aware, Final Fantasy VII and other Final Fantasy games on the PS1, the way they're made is they have what's called modules. They have different types of modules. This is the field module. This module runs at 30 frames per second. Battle modules, like when the part that is the battle runs at 15 frames per second, and the menus run at the menu at the bottom of the screen runs at 60. So while you're in a battle, the animations are 15, but your menuing is 60. It's two split modules at the same time. When you go out of a battle on the field module at 30 FPS, and you hold triangle and you get into the menu, that menu then becomes fully 60 FPS the whole time you're in there doing equipment, materia, items, whatever. So that's how these games are coded. And that works for to my knowledge, 7, 8, 9, and I think original 10, not the HD version.
If you press triangle 2 frames late, you get into the battle because it finished the check. But if you press triangle 1 frame after the D-pad, you get the skip. You get the movement with it. So just so you know, very specifically, the D-pad movement has to occur, and then the menu 1 frame later. Yeah, so there you go. That's how battle skips work. They're very, one thing to know about them, though, is that they're very rarely actually useful. And the only way to execute one is to know exactly where you are on steps. and so they are something that is only for if you're on a step route and you know it's skippable, you know? Otherwise, don't bother. So, that's battle skips, but once again, rarely useful. However, I think it's very interesting also just to know, in order to understand how battles work in the game. Let's talk about formations real quick. So, you'll notice right here in the PlayStation memory, at address 071C20, you have something called a formation ID.
If you're ever interested, if any of you guys are interested in doing this or whatever, he will explain. I'm not sure if it's in this video or the next one. And if we don't get to see it, I will find it and show you. He will explain what emulator he's using and like all the tools that are available and like how you can use this. You can all do this too. And you're only allowed to use this in terms of practice and learning. You're not allowed to be looking at this during the run because it's watching the RAM values in the game. He's using this in terms of showing us as a tutorial, but it's not something you're allowed to look at. You're allowed to make notes of how many steps you need and what encounters you're going to get and things like that, and read your notes, but you're not allowed to use this during a run on emulator and stuff because it would be literally cheating because you can see too much.
Your step ID, your danger, all that decides when you get into a random battle, but it doesn't decide what the enemies in the random battle are. That is decided by your formation ID. So at formation ID 0, for example, the battle that we get here is 2 soldiers. There it is. And now when we got into the battle, one more thing that occurred, and this was triggered by the fact that we got into a battle, is our formation ID went up by 2. Let's say we were here and our formation ID was already 2. Then we get into a battle. Our formation ID went up to 4 by the battle. And look at this, it's different enemies. Let's say our formation ID was 4. It goes up to 6. And the battle that occurs is 2 of these things. So what happens in this game is every time that you get into a battle, your formation ID increments. And that formation ID is used to decide what the enemies are in the game. Would the formation ID make you fight enemies that aren't supposed to be there? No, because it's a combination of your formation ID and what field you're on. Your field ID is also important. Like every field only has so many formations, and so then your formation ID decides which of those formations you get. I mean, that's basically it about formations, and so it's a very simple concept. Oh, one more thing to talk about formations, okay? Remember the battle skips? This is information that's for if you're creating a step route for yourself, but this is just something that's interesting. Notice that we're at formation ID 0 here, and we're at fraction 224, step ID 74. This is the spot I was showing you earlier for the battle skip, where you can skip a battle if you menu right. Check this out. If you skip the battle, your formations actually increase as if you got into the fight. Isn't that wacky? So, remember, if you're ever thinking about doing battle skips, or you're thinking about routing a battle skip in to your step route, or that kind of thing, remember, you cannot have something be like, you can either walk under it, or you can battle skip it, and it doesn't matter. No, it's different. Your formation ID actually increases when you skip a battle using the menu. But it doesn't if you walk under, because the logic never fired to get you into a battle. Do boss battle triggers affect your formation ID? Scripted encounters do not trigger or do not increase your formation ID. I believe the reason is that the logic that fires, that that changes your formation ID is specifically the logic that fires when your danger is over the encounter threshold at the step ID that you're at when the fractions roll over, right? When that whole process fires, that's when formation ID changes. Which is also, that's also why when you skip an encounter like this, your formation ID goes up, because all of that logic just triggered. It just didn't do the battle because it loaded the menu module instead. All right.
That's where modules come in.
There we go. Oh yeah, skipping encounters also causes something called the double boss glitch.
Oh, Kira, you're gonna love this. Have you ever seen a double boss? Like, this is crazy. I had never seen this until today, and this is a glitch that he's gonna show you right now, and it is.
That's a really good point.
I was mind blown.
Encounter using the battle skip, and then your next encounter is a boss fight. You will fight the boss twice. That actually sounds like it would be fun to show real quick. Okay, check this out. Let's talk about battle skips for one more second. Oh man, there we go. Okay, so we just skipped an encounter. You see? We're on the encounter, and we just skipped it. Okay? If you do that, and then you go and immediately go fight a boss, I'm not gonna walk through the boss yet, we're just gonna show this real quick.
Wait for it. Yep, a double boss fight.
Okay, hopefully this kills. Nice. Alright, so we just killed Guard Scorpion, right? We skipped an encounter, and then we killed Guard Scorpion. Check this out. Battle Swirl. Oh, what's up, Guard Scorpion? What the fuck? Okay. Do you hear the music, too? We refer to this as the Trumpets of Doom, yes.
I would love to know that too.
Hang on, I really want to survive this fight so you can see what's after it. Just to show what happens if you end up beating the fight.
Guard Scorpion 2 lasering.
Okay. So you've killed him a second time with the Trumpets of Doom happening. And wow, you get experience again. There's even Trumpets of Doom now. And then the game just continues as normal, if that happens. So there we go.
Interesting,
And,
huh?
we got the rewards twice. We have two
assault guns.
You know, we fought the boss twice. So anyway, that's a bug that happens. So
I'd never seen that until today.
Happens if
I started watching these today while I had like a lazy day lying in bed watching TV. I had like a business appointment to do at lunchtime, and then after that I just kind of went back to bed and was just lying in bed absorbing this knowledge all day, and I was like, dude, this is so sick.
Fight that's triggered not by the random encounter logic after you have skipped a battle that would be triggered by the random encounter logic. So so what you have to do is like, let's say your route has a battle skip in it, and you perform a battle skip. You must get into a regular random encounter before the next scripted encounter. Otherwise, the next scripted encounter will double trigger like that, and you'll get into it twice. So there you go.
So yeah, that was this video as part of the FF7 80% no slots comprehensive speedrun tutorial by Dash Retro. I'm going to share it in the chat room. We are going to watch another one as well, because there's more to this. So yeah, I think he obviously can explain, because I'm only learning with you. You know, I learned some of this today. I've known about some of it before, like I said, step ID, danger and hostility in rooms. Obviously. Okay, I think this should get me back in a second. Sorry about that, lads and ladies. My fucking OBS crashed again. That is bullshit. At least we got to finish the video, that's fine. This will patch itself back in the VOD, so... Just tell people to refresh if they haven't already. Still getting that OBS error that kills my OBS sometimes, like it just seemingly spikes a little bit and just dies. I still don't know what is conflicting with that, and it's annoying because all my other versions of OBS don't have all of my plugins and everything working. So I'm going to have to take a day at some point to try and do some fresh installs and see if I can resolve this, but then I can't tell until I'm actually streaming. So, and it's like not consistent, like it'll just do it, and then I'll stream for 8 hours and it'll not do it. It's weird. So... yeah, I don't know about that, but we're back at least. I don't know whereabouts I got to before I got cut off, so I'll just explain again. We are watching these videos by Dash Retro, which are part of the FF7 80% no slots comprehensive speedrun tutorial, and this next video that we're going to watch is to do with step count, which is something that Levion touched on earlier. And this will show about, as he rightly said, can you sort of take some steps to avoid an encounter? And that is exactly what step count is. It's where you, instead of running full sprint across a screen, you would stop, take maybe 8.5 steps, and then run, which will change where you get the encounter, and it will put it in a more preferable place, perhaps like later in the area on the way back or something. And it can kind of enable you to miss an encounter, and there's other variables as to why it's useful too. So, we're going to watch that right now.
Alright, we're going to talk about steps now.
Let me mute this, and then do this. We're going to full screen again. So yeah, this one is fully explaining the step count, and you may have seen speedrunners do this before, like, or talk about it. What is a step count? What do you mean to take steps? How, all these kind of questions, and more, will be answered right now.
Alright, we're going to talk about steps now. So the burning question that you might have a burning question that is, Dash, sometimes I see runners walk instead of run, and they count the steps. What's the deal with that? Once again, you don't have to do this to start running the game. I pretty much recommend that you don't do this right away, but I think that knowing what it is very important knowledge, even if you're not going to do it yet. So, here's what the deal is with that. Notice on this screen, our fractions are about to roll over. Check this out. If I'm holding X, so I'm running, our danger incremented to 64. We got 64 danger points. However, if I was walking, we only got 16. You only increment 1/4 as much danger as if you run. And so, that is, if you're looking at Big Shoes, that is what the green line represents, is if you're walking, your danger only increments that much. And so if you've been following along so far, you notice that limbos underneath a lot of these encounters. Without looking at Big Shoes, though, just to show you, what that means is, let's say that instead of doing this run to these guys right here, in this particular circumstance, if you were to walk here instead, you'll notice crazily that right here, where we would normally get the encounter now, we don't get it. So now, we still get into the encounter that's on the stairs here. So remember the encounter that occurred about right here last time? We're still gonna get that encounter, except now it's right here. So by walking, we actually got rid of one encounter, but the next encounter we got further back. So what's the deal with all of that? The reason that that happened is firstly because this encounter check right here is low enough to where if you're running, you do get into the encounter, but if you walk just enough, you can get under this check. So
I love that
as we
program.
take steps, you can
To see it on a visual level like that is
that's
really
enough
clear.
walking for that to happen.
Or at least I think it is. It's like, it made more sense when I saw Big Shoes open, and I was like, ah,
Now
okay.
this screen, so that didn't look like it was enough walking, but now this screen has lower danger incrementation than that first screen does. So actually, as you can see, that was just enough walking to pass underneath this encounter check. So, when a runner walks, what they're doing, the whole thing about it is that remember.
Okay, this is getting annoying now. Yeah, I am so sorry. I don't know why it's fucking doing it. I can load up a shitty version of OBS 27 and then none of my stuff works and my screens are not right, and then it won't crash because it's not spiking as much. I still think it's my CPU, it can't hack it. It spikes too much and then it just dies. Like, it's like OBS's power usage is always through the roof as it is, but that's like a normal thing. But because of the new fucking elements that they added into OBS here, it's too much like Streamlabs OBS now and uses too much computer. Whereas before it didn't, you know? And because I've got Chrome open, that's eating 12 gig of RAM because it's Chrome. I have 16 gig of RAM, but my computer, like, can barely breathe with Chrome open. So, like, it's awkward. Like, that's why I haven't been playing anything modern recently, because as soon as I boot up RE2 Remake, my computer's going to die. It's not going to hack it, be able to stream it at the same time as well right now. It's fucking annoying. I might I do need to upgrade to Opera or something. I just need something that isn't as juicy. Because, like, as soon as fucking Chrome is open, it is always just battering RAM the whole time. 50% RAM, fucking just because Chrome exists. And as soon as I close that, the PC's chill. Like, this is why I always say to you guys, I try not to have my browser open while we're streaming, because it just doesn't work, you know what I mean? RAM, CPU, bandwidth allocation. I have I have 16 gig of RAM, so that's not an issue, but it's just that Chrome, even when it's idle, is eating so much. And, like, Chrome and Firefox are the two that I've always used, and they're the two worst offenders for it. Like, there's been a memory leak in these programs since their inception, and no one has fucking ever solved it. You know, like, we got all these guys making these robots and Tesla and shit. Why has nobody solved a memory leak in Firefox for the last 15 years? Like, you know, come on. Shit's really annoying. I'm going to start this video again in a minute. But yeah, this is really annoying that it keeps dying. I'm so sorry. Luckily, as long as I restart the stream in under like a minute and a half, Twitch will patch it together. So it won't be all separate VODs later, which I found out recently, so I'm not as annoyed. I don't care as much. It's just annoying for the interruption thing, because, like, we just watched the whole video and nothing happened. Then we just started another one and it died. There's no rhyme or reason, you know? But yeah, you guys voting for Opera? I haven't seen Opera since it was on the iPhone 3GS. So, you know, I'm a little bit behind on that one. Yeah. I know it's not, but that's the last time I ever heard of Opera, like, you know, in that capacity kind of thing. That's what I mean. Like, that was the last time I you know, since then I forgot that Opera even exists. Like, it's like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Like, and it's a thing that you can use on the computer, not just on iPhones and things. It's like, I'm not with it with all that shit. I'm still in 2007 over here. I was like, I never go Opera, now I have use, so I don't want to change away from it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, once you've used it and you can like already show that it's like, if you guys both say it's good, then I would trust both of your judgment on that. So I'll get onto that then. It's just that I'm trying to see why this even happens. So, for example, if I go to where we play Final Fantasy, right? If I go here and I fuck with one of the elements, like my display capture, and I move it, or I resize it like this, When I was testing this on OBS 29 the other day, doing this with one of my keyboard overlays made OBS just die and it just crashed. On 29 and 28. When I went to 27, it worked, and it was okay, and I streamed for a day or so on 27, because it doesn't have as much intensive UI bullshit. This new version is trying to look like Streamlabs, and therefore has more gubbins under the hood, which causes more usage. When I use 27, it barely peaks above 30%. When I use 29, it's 50%, or 55, or 60, or what, you know? So, it's like, this is how I tested it the other day, because I was moving a source around in my stream, and it just immediately died. And then when I tried it on 28, it immediately died. And when I tried the same thing on 27, it worked. And then I played Resident Evil 2 for like an hour. And I was like, okay, that's fair enough. So other than that, I literally have no rhyme nor reason of why this started doing it other than OBS updated. Because before the UI update, before it tried to do this fucking flashy fucking module shit, it ran fine for like how many ever years I've been using it on stream. So that, you know what I mean? That's why I think that that's part of my problem. Also, maybe rendering that video for 12 hours at 98% the whole fucking time, or 10 hours, might have blown something in my CPU. That's also a variable, because this is not a video editing machine, and I did a long edit on it, which I needed to render, so in 1080p. It does look like Stream Elements, yeah, exactly. But that's the new OBS 29. I've got 27, 28, and 29 all, like, available to me. The reason I like this one the most is because my plugins work and my voice spectralizer works, things like that. It's like tiny little things that are just working because of where the app data OBS Studio, like this is my full install. The other ones were just instances that I boot that I can just use an instance of 27 just to stream with, and it has all my shit. As a, you know, like I did it the other day when I needed to just get on. So in 27, but then the other night when you were here, the last stream that I did when we played New Threat for hours, and Sunia Fox and everyone came over and all that stream, that was on 29. We just played for 9 hours, no problem. If anything, doing that and streaming and stuff, that should have spiked. We had the browser open as well. We were watching Fuzzfingers videos. You sent them to me. We were going in and out of stuff all day on that stream and doing different things. It didn't have a problem. So that's why I've got no bloody rhyme or reason as to why it's doing it. So all I can do is just YOLO, keep streaming, and then just hope it doesn't fucking do it. You know, like, I'm going to try this video again. If it does it again, then I don't know, maybe we'll just move to the game for now. But I would like to watch all this, because this one, after the battle video, this step count video is really important, you know? So it goes with it, like, hand in hand. Hey, no worries, RC. Take care, man. Thanks for hanging out. You have a good night. GG's to you. Okay, so, let's try this again, after some technical difficulties, which this stream wouldn't be the same without. We are looking at this next video by Dash Retro in the FF7 any percent no slots comprehensive speedrun tutorial. This one is step count, and it follows on from our battle skips and our battles random video to fully now explain about using steps to avoid battles and the consequences of that, and why you would want to do it, etc., etc. He's going to explain it a lot better than I can. So let's get into it and hope that my OBS doesn't crash again.
So the burning question that you might have a burning question that is, Dash, sometimes I see
hey, no worries, Kira.
walk instead of run, and they count the steps. What's the deal with that? Once again, you don't have...
I would leave this on and go make a coffee quick, but I don't trust it.
I pretty much recommend that you don't do this right away, but I think that knowing what it is very important knowledge, even if you're not going to do it yet. So, here's what the deal is with that. Notice on this screen, our fractions are about to roll over. Check this out. If I'm holding X, so I'm running, our danger incremented to 64. We got 64 danger points. However, if I was walking, we only got 16. You only increment 1/4 as much danger as if you run. And so, that is, if you're looking at Big Shoes, that is what the green line represents. Is if you're walking,
green line is walking.
Your danger only increments that much. And so if you've been following along so far, you notice that limbos underneath a lot of these encounters. Without looking at Big Shoes, though, just to show you, what that means is, let's say that instead of doing this run to these guys right here, in this, where am I? In this particular circumstance, if you were to walk here instead, you'll notice crazily that right here, where we would normally get the encounter now, we don't get it. So now, we still get into the encounter that's on the stairs here. So remember the encounter that occurred about right here last time? We're still gonna get that encounter, except now it's right here. So by walking, we actually got rid of one encounter, but the next encounter we got further back. So what's the deal with all of that? The reason that happened is firstly because this encounter check right here is low enough to where if you're running, you do get into the encounter, but if you walk just enough, you can get under this check. So as we take these steps, you can see...
Someone said in his chat, I'm walking over here.
For that to happen, right? And now this screen, so that didn't look like it was enough walking, but now this screen has lower danger incrementation than that first screen does. So actually, as you can see, that was just enough walking to pass underneath this encounter check. So, when a runner walks, what they're doing, the whole thing about it is that, remember that fractions roll over. This is like the big concept right here. This is the important part about walking, is that when you walk, your fractions are still going every frame. And so your step ID is still incrementing every 8 frames. Which means, you know, let's take a save state here and then pop back here. So if we look at our step ID here, right, this is the very beginning, and so you know, our step ID is 0. If we run to these guys, our we only took 4 steps there because it increments by 2 every time. Our step ID is 8 if we walk there, or if we run there. Sorry, but if we walk there, our step ID goes all the way up to 30. It takes way more steps to get somewhere walking. You burn through a lot of step IDs, and that's intentional. We want this danger check right here, we don't like, because it's too low, and if we run, we get into a fight. So essentially, we walk, incrementing very little danger, in order to limbo underneath that danger check. Now, if you were to just keep walking, though, let's say you just kept walking, like what if you always walked? We're burning through these step IDs really quickly because it's every 8 frames. And so if you're only walking, you get a battle all the way back. Like, yeah, it took a long time to get a battle, but we only made it that far. You know? We only made it that far.
Because you already burned through the steps.
So the trick and what we're doing when we take steps, and why we take steps, and why we count the steps, is because we want to take only enough steps to limbo underneath an encounter and no more. Because the walking steps that we took avoids the encounter, but then any more steps is a waste of movement, a waste of step IDs. We're going to get behind on our route because we're going to start getting encounters too early. So let's kind of talk about that briefly. The terminology that you often hear is whether you are ahead or behind on steps.
Yeah.
And the reason is that if we start from right...
He was actually able to read a graph out explaining it. Feel good? There you go. It's pretty simple. It's just one of them things, like Sufi said at the start, it's a lot of information all on the screen and everything, but once you have it broken down. That's why, like, I wanted him to explain it, and before people ask stuff, because it will all make sense once he's finished explaining, or at least to a degree it will, and far better than I could explain. But Big Shoes, he'll mention this as well, but Big Shoes is not something you're allowed to use, or you would use during a run either, because that's like you're cheating, same as you having these values available. These are just for training purposes and for demo only, but you wouldn't use these features in a run.
If we come down, and we'll talk about these screens more specifically, we get the encounter right here, right? However, let's say I was really sloppy with my movement. Whoa, I took a big misstep right there. Now we get the encounter all the way back here, you know? And the reason is because, again, you get into the fights just after so many frames of movement. And so if your movement is sloppy, that means that you're taking more frames of movement to get through the room. Thus, you're hitting these step IDs earlier, and the battles occur on certain step IDs, you know, where your danger is high enough. And so if that step ID occurs earlier, you get into the battle earlier. And if you get into the battle earlier, or further back, you know, shit, you're behind. But now let's say we're doing really well, right? Let's say my movement was somehow tighter than it was, and we got here and our step ID is still like 112 or something, because I was like ultra tight, right? Now we're expecting the fight right here, but we're not going to get that step ID until all the way over here. Oh my god, we're ahead on steps, you know, because we got the battle later than we expected. So here is how steps actually occur on your route. Is your notes, let me actually open up my notes real quick. So these are my notes, very inspired by RJ. Now, what you kind of get in notes is you're not looking at Big Shoes during a run. You know, you don't know exactly what step ID you're on all the time. You just know where you expect to get into battles and whether you're a little ahead or behind. What you actually have written down is...
Yo, what up, Rapid? Welcome on in, dude.
...just a number of steps to take.
I am indeed, sir.
Now...
Been having some technical issues, though, but I'm here.
Step IDs, and this is where...
Just because my OBS keeps dying, but it's fine.
What is a step ID and what is a step? Because really, a step ID is a...
I'm doing well, dude. How are you? Welcome on in. Hope you're having a good day. We are just watching these videos that are breaking down the answer to my question in the title of Are FF7 battles actually random? Spoiler alert, they're not. This is the second video out of sort of 2 or 3 that we're going to be watching that from a comprehensive tutorial that break down the hard coding in the game to a level that not many of us would have seen before.
To refer to
yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
Memory address.
How are you?
And the fact that it increments by 2 every time that your fractions roll over at 256. That is what a step ID is. And so battles occur on certain step IDs if your danger is high enough and that kind of thing, right? Now, when we talk about taking a step, though, we're not counting frames, right? It's not like, okay, I gotta walk for 8 step IDs, and so that's 64 frames, which is 2 seconds and 4 frames, right? We're not doing that.
No, no, that question was completely unrelated. I was watching Aris before I started streaming, and they were talking about the Tekken finals, and then they said only Bilal was allowed to go, and then a Portuguese guy said Bilal means dick in my language, and Aris said, oh really? Okay. And that's why I was like, I don't believe that, so I asked you.
The visual cue.
Nothing to do with this.
And that visual cue are Cloud's feet stepping, which is an approximation. And so the way that you kind of have it written down and what you're doing during a run is, okay, we take 8.5 steps.
That's the one.
The ladder, which is after the
yeah, it was just somebody memeing, trying to make a relevant joke, but it wasn't that funny.
Written down. So first of all, you expect to get a fight right here. So you could, sometimes you have to take steps right after a fight. This is an example of a time where you don't have to take steps right after a fight, which is why I have it written down to do them after the ladder, just because it's easier. So now it is time to take steps. So first of all, if you don't take these steps, what would happen is you would run down. You would go off the screen here, and you would fight Guard Scorpion, right? You fought Guard Scorpion, good job. Then you would run back up. Battle occurs right here, okay? However, if you take the steps...
Pharmaceutical
1,
company.
2, 3, 4,
Fair enough.
5, 6,
At least there's something.
8.5, and then you start running. You come up here. There's no battle.
Aha, we skipped a battle.
So there you go. There's steps in motion working again. There's another example of them. So this time, though, we're going to talk about how people count steps. Here we go. You just look at his feet. And how do you count them? Boom, 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 boom. Look at those steps. Look at that cloud strut. So this is something that every runner does a little bit differently, is how exactly...
Fair, yeah, I didn't... Oh, well, there we go. At least we did learn something new.
Some runners start at 0, and they wait for Cloud to take a step, and they count when his heel hits down, like 1, 2, 3, 4. You know? You get that? Some runners just start counting immediately. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the same amount, but one runner might count that as 4, and one runner might count that as 5. You know? Depending on how you do it. Are you a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of person? Or are you a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of
How would you do it, chat?
Me? I'm a 5. Out of 10. I'm the type that just starts... I start on 1, and I start right when I hit the D-pad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know? That's how I would do 5 steps.
It sounds like... What, you know... It sounds like he's making a big deal out of nothing. Like, why does it matter? It's the same thing in the end. But it does matter depending on how you do your own notes. And if he says 5.5 and you do it differently, it's not going to be 5.5 for you if you're reading his notes. Do you know what I mean? So you'd have to like, yeah. Bial, not Bilal. Oh, fair enough. Close. Start as you start moving. So you'd be the same as Dash then, right? That's 5 steps for you and not 4. Like as soon as you start 1, 2, 3, 4, like he's doing. I'd probably be the same. Yeah. But they...
5 steps. Some people might...
When he does this version, you'll be like, actually, that one makes sense too. They both make sense, and it would be down to you to decide which version.
Say like 1,
kind of.
2, 3, 4...
Not for RNG manipulation, but for battle skips.
Did you see the difference there? If you say 5 steps, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right when Cloud's 5th heel hits down. Some people would say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leg motion, and then they start going. I would count that as a half step. If you told me 5.5 steps, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. You know, before the 6th heel hits down, as the leg kind of swings.
Yeah, what this is to do with is to change the position of a battle, because like he said, if you just run down here, fight Guard Scorpion and come back, you get a battle here. If you get down the bottom of the stairs, take 8.5 steps, then run through here, fight Guard Scorpion, come back, you won't get the battle until further out. You'll actually skip this battle and you'll be climbing up the ladder no problems. But then there are other consequences for that, because once you skip a battle, your danger is too high, and then you're going to be more likely, with your steps and your running, to encounter another encounter in a later place. This is a very comprehensive sort of breakdown and explanation of things that... If you've missed the last part of what we've just watched, you'll have to go back and watch it in order. And I'll link these in the chat room when we're finished watching them, because if you're interested in watching this, this is the second part of what we've already been taught. So yes, it is Rapid. Huge for the speedrun.
To you here is that the way that we measure how many steps to take once we've done the Big Shoes research and we know how many steps to take. The way that every runner actually writes it down is a little bit different, and you're going to have to find your own preference for that. For me, it's start on 1, and it's when the heel hits down.
I can relate to this. This is what happens to me when I'm streaming. Just random cat. Just hi.
8.5 steps. So let's see what that looks like on Big Shoes here. To once again get a nice vision.
So just to break this down quickly and easily for Rapid, hopefully, this chart shows encounters. The vertical lines are when you're going to get into a battle. The diagonal blue line is when you're running, and the green line, you can't see because I'm in the way, is walking. So this shows that if you walk in certain spots, you'll go under, you'll like limbo under in an encounter. 4 months old. 5 months old.
We need to walk enough to get
Like, this is based on the current world record, so...
We're not going to have enough danger to get into this encounter, right? And so that's, you know, counting in my way of 8.5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. And there you go. Now you'll notice step ID rolled over at 256, and when it did, when step ID rolled over at 26,
yeah, this is the most modern comprehensive speedrun tutorial that there is that I know of, that I've seen. The other ones are like Caleb's videos, which are 4 years old, which he just runs the game and shows you how to run the game. There's none of this. You know nothing about... You'll know about step count, but he'll just talk about it, but he won't explain it in that old tutorial. Maybe he does, I think, in his more modern one that from a year or so ago. But he doesn't. It doesn't show things like this. So this is why I wanted to show this, because this to me is like the most comprehensive thing that shows how to hard code, how the game is hard coded, and how they, you know, how every encounter is actually hard coded in, and every encounter check is hard coded. There is RNG manipulation and things like that later. Optimations, scatter thread. Kind of. This is based on the world record run. And Dash Retro himself is not the world record holder, but he's in the top 10, like he's like a top 5 runner. This is all like the most optimal FF7 shit that is known currently. So
by 13. So offset is the biggest unit of steps. Every time fractions are the smallest unit of steps, they go up every frame. And roll over at 256.
But yeah, there are things as well that we'll get into in further videos. If you guys want to watch more of these at some point, there are things like RNG manips and guard skipping, how field RNG works, how to manipulate the elevator in Shinra building, and how it all starts at Aerith's house with the glowing of the waterfall, because that changes the RNG. And he has these values to show you how that works and everything. It's trust me, this is top tier, top tier.
Every time fractions roll over at 256, and step ID rolls over at 256, and when step ID rolls over at 256, offset goes up by 13, and that's why it's the top on my list here. So yeah, so offset went up to 13.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's what he's using here, Rapid, is like task program. He's using the RAM values in the game, and he can adapt, he can change them to change his step ID and whatnot. And then this program shows in real time your step count and whether you're going to get an encounter. None of these are legal to use in the run while you're running.
I believe offset also rolls over at 256, and that's the entire...
He runs on real console as well. He's just using the emulator to show us.
That I would like to talk about. So we've figured out that those 8.5 steps there was pretty optimal. What happens if you don't do the right amount? You know, what happens if you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5, and then you start going? Oh my gosh, look at that! You just get into a battle. Because you failed to walk under the encounter,
yep.
Your danger still got too high because you didn't do enough danger increments of the 1/4 walking danger incrementation. You didn't do that enough times. Your danger was too high. You got into the fight. Shit, right? So that's what happens if you don't take enough steps. What if you take too many steps? Well, you'll notice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. Let's take like another save state right here. If I took that many steps, and then we ran down,
yeah,
and we run down to
basically
here, right? And then I run back up. You don't get the encounter until all the way up there, right?
Because he limboed under.
What if instead I did like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.5, right? I walked way too much. Well, we don't get into the fight, you know, because we still did enough danger incrementation, but remember, your danger increments your step ID goes up every 8 frames, whether you're walking or running. So what happens is you burned...
Okay, I'm going to say this again. Go back and watch the first part, because you've missed so much, and you've walked in and started asking questions right near the end when all this has already been explained, I'm afraid. So you need to go back and see why you can't skip every battle in the game. There's a reason for everything here, but unfortunately you're getting here late, so you're missing very important information. This is so convoluted and thing you need to... It's like, you know, you had to have been here. I'm sorry. I will highlight all this so you can check it all out in future, but...
If you walk too much, you just burn through too many step IDs and you put yourself...
But like I'll give you a short, quick explanation. If you skip a battle, and when you go into a battle, your danger resets to 0. So therefore, you go right down to the bottom of the chart again, and there's a chance you can, carry on getting under battles, right? If you skip one, your danger doesn't reset. So therefore, your danger value is still really high, and therefore you're going to walk into one of these other battles that you don't want to get. So if you skip a battle, you can't just run through and skip every battle in the game, even if you know where they all are, because you will be forced to take another one. So you are right in what you're saying, but it does matter that much, because it can then fuck you on getting a back attack or a pincer attack. If you skip a battle that could be an easy battle to run from or win, and then you end up accidentally getting a pincer attack in Icicle Village, or Icicle Inn, sorry, you then get wrecked. So, because you actually only have like 500 HP when you should have 5,000, because you're not playing casually, so therefore you get deleted, and that's why you can't skip every battle. But that's the short way. Go back and watch this. I will link these in the chat as well, so you can check the whole playlist. But
if you're on a step route, both of these things are pretty devastating. So you really want to walk the correct number of steps. But if you have to go off a little bit, if you want to like play it safe, it's better to walk too much than too little, because that just puts you behind. Because getting into an extra fight screws up your formations. Ooh, what a segue! If you are on a step route,
this is... this is still the same part. Okay, cool. I thought it switched video there for a second. Yeah, kind of. They do have different properties, because it depends on where a battle is determined on your formation ID, your step ID, and your field ID. Like, the field ID is this screen. Your formation ID, I can't remember already how he explained that, but it's in the previous part. And step ID is the amount of steps you've taken, and they have sex with each other and give you a battle.
It avoids pincer attacks, and also in some cases,
as well as the danger threshold checks,
does get you a
which correlate with the steps,
such as the 2 death claws when you need to learn laser, or fats when you need to learn death sentence. Right? You have to get those fights, and so if your formations are off, then you won't get the fights that you need.
If you guys enjoy these, then we can watch more of them over the next couple of streams and stuff.
You get pincered, all kinds of problems happen, right? And so let's just demonstrate that right here.
That's what I said about getting pincered and getting fucked.
If we, so our formation ID is 4 right now. If we take the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 steps, right? We fight Guard Scorpion and we come back. So we avoided the encounter. Not only did we avoid the encounter, but our formation ID is 4. And so that means we're going to get all the way up here. And just as expected,
you're a big fan?
We're going to hit this encounter. So we hit that encounter at 4. It incremented to 7. We get this fight. Okay. Let's say, though, we underwalked it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, shit. I got into the fight. That's no good. But, okay, let's just continue. Let's say this is happening on your run where you're on a step route. Problem is, your formations just increased to 6. Now, you gained some steps because you didn't walk enough, and walking burns steps more quickly. We're going to get into this encounter later now because we walked less than we were supposed to. But our formation ID went up to 8 instead of 7, and it's a different
mobs.
You see that?
It is, dude. See, this is why I always strive to show you guys something you might not have seen, or as a casual you might not even know about, and you know, especially when it comes to my favorite shit like FF7. So I always try my hardest to find some interesting, unique shit to show you guys.
That can screw you, or that.
And this certainly is.
Yeah, it can screw you. It can be okay.
If you want to ruin a childhood classic, come to my channel.
Depends on what happens after.
Welcome back, Kira.
When I say it depends on what happens after, what I mean is, did you notice that when my formation ID was 4...
Again, there's for Kira's benefit, there's things here that you've missed that are kind of important, so you'll have to go back and check the whole thing in one piece afterwards to see how this was all fully explained, because the step count is a big deal.
3 to hit 7.
It's true, you weren't.
But when my formation ID was 6, it incremented by 2 to hit 8. Isn't that weird? Depending on what your...
I was like 9/10 when this came out.
It's gonna go up by a different amount also.
Yeah, Kira, it's only because he can explain and show everything far better than I can. I don't want to paraphrase too much and fuck it up and seem like an idiot when the information is all here. But it's just like, if you miss bits of it, you're gonna have a bad time because you're not gonna know everything. And it's like, this is one of those things that this is a sit down and watch it all in one go type thing.
Depending on what field you're in. Which actually means that if your formations get off, they have a chance to fix themselves. Because if it just so happened that we got into a fight here that only incremented our formation ID by 1, because of our wrong formation ID going in, that would have actually fixed it. We would have gotten the wrong fight right here, but hereafter it would have been fine. And so... it's weird. And it can screw your run. It can fix itself. Dash, why did the formations go up by a different amount? And unfortunately, I have to tell you that in this self-proclaimed, comprehensive, down and dirty, hot and heavy FF7 tutorial, that is something that I currently do not know. I actually don't know what the exact logic is that causes it to increment by a different amount. All I can
Yeah, that's fair.
tell you
Sorry, man.
is that it's not random. It depends on...
like, it's annoying because my audio settings on mobile, on cell phones, my audio settings are whack. But I watch myself on the PC, and my tests on the PC, when I played FF7 the other night, I can barely hear myself. So what it sounds like for you and what it sounds like on the TV is completely different, which sucks, but I can't... it's hard to even... and if I have noise suppression and noise gates, it makes me quieter, but then I'll say something and words will cut out and you won't get me all. And I've tried, you know, I've been here for 4 years, I've tested this shit, I know how to do it. So it's like trying to find a medium that works for cell broadcast, like for people watching on mobile and for when you watch on a TV sat on the sofa. It's like, it's so hard to get that to sound like good on both setups.
It depends on...
yeah, you're watching on PC Rapid, that's why.
And
so it will. It's different.
You're on. It's going...
there's also... I'm going to show you guys this right now. Let me just finish this. Then this is nearly done.
And so as long as you're en route, you're going to be fine. If you're not on formations, it might fix itself. I don't really know why. I think that's the lesson on step count.
All right. So let me show you guys something as well that you might not know. So the other thing that's different for me, and that was that was the video by Dash Retro. I'm getting thrown about mentally here because I'm trying to do too many things in my head at once. I'm trying to access this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link you guys this playlist in the chat so you can check it out. And then I'm going to show you something regarding the audio on Twitch, which you might be able to check. Exactly. So there's the link at least. And this was part of the FF7 80% no slots comprehensive speedrun tutorial by Dash Retro. There's 48 videos in there. If you guys would like to watch more of these with me at some point, then let me know. I'll do maybe a poll in the chat or something, because I think this is very, very like top tier FF7 knowledge. How to do the guard skip, how to manipulate the elevator in the Shinra building, how field RNG works, like everything, dude. So yeah, this is going to be really cool to sit through and watch these. But yeah, that's going to be the end of that part. Let me show you something that you might not know about on Twitch.